Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of FitBudd's webinar series for coaches and fitness entrepreneurs. Thank you all for joining us today. So glad to see all of you ready to invest some time in growing and nurturing your fitness business. Before we dive into the main event of the day, please allow me to briefly introduce FitBudd to those of you who might be new here. FitBudd helps you grow your fitness business with the power of your own app on iOS as well as on Android. And we also give you a dedicated and customizable website on your very own domain. So beyond usual day-to-day operations, our platform is the only tool you need to seamlessly run your fitness business and build a robust digital brand. We also offer a 30-day free trial. So just click on the link shared in the chat box and you can schedule your free demo with your very own success manager. Okay, so moving on to what you're here for. I am thrilled to introduce our host, the amazing Sarah Safari. Sarah, thank you for being here. Sarah, if you guys don't know already, is a fitness entrepreneur herself who built a multi-seven-figure coaching business before the age of 26. She is also a business coach with an impressive history of guiding coaches to their best in health and fitness business. So without any further delay, let's welcome Sarah Safari to the virtual stage and start our webinar. I'm sure everyone is super excited to learn from you, Sarah, so please take it away.
What's going on, everybody? And thank you so much for the introduction. I am going to dive in, but for anybody who has not seen me do webinars, I'm going to share screen. I'm going to go into our deck, but real quick, for anybody who hasn't seen me do webinars, I like it to be a little bit interactive. So I'd like to ask you guys a few questions just to get an idea of where you guys are at, because I like to place priority on people who are currently actively on the webinar so I can make sure you guys are getting the biggest bang for your buck on this. So just so I have an idea, give me a 1 in the chat if you currently have an online fitness business and you're looking to scale. So give me a 1. Give me a 2 if you have either like a hybrid fitness business, like online and offline, and that's the business you're looking to grow. So give me a 1 if you're purely online. Give me a 2 if you're doing a hybrid. If you're doing fully in person, you can give me a 3, but from my experience, most of you guys usually are a combination of 1 or 2. All right, we got a lot of hybrids in here. Cool, we got a few online. Nice, nice. Okay, awesome. We got 1, 3. Danny, all in person. Danny, I'm curious, do you want to go online or do you want to just scale your in-person business right now? And then I'm going to ask one follow-up question before we get started. Are you guys currently for the people who are either a 2 or a 3, are you looking to go fully online? If the answer is yes, just give me a 1 again. So if you want to go fully online, give me a 1 again. Okay, we got quite a few. Awesome, awesome. AJ is just like, no, I want to keep it hybrid. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'll kind of dive into a little bit of that. We'll talk about the hybrid model. We'll talk about the in-person model. Obviously, FitBudd helps with both. In terms of client generation, lead generation, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to dive into that. Today's webinar is primarily about the social media side of things and how to be able to leverage that using social media. So I'm going to see if I can open the chat box here so I can keep in touch with you guys. Online active, 1 to the first question. Awesome, cool. So we're going to go into how to bring in more clientele using social media. So there's going to be a number of things that we're going to dive into. I'm going to continue to ask you guys questions throughout, and I'm going to pause to see if there's anything you guys want to add, any questions you have, and then we'll go from there. So the biggest thing here is just learning how to leverage social media to drive 10 plus fitness clients per month in your business. So one of the biggest issues that I encounter with coaches when I speak to them is I can't get enough leads. I can't convert sales calls. Or I don't like the way that, the nature or the idea of the way that sales calls are. I don't really know what to do to scale, or for beginners, I don't necessarily know where to start to be able to grow and scale, right? So these are typically like the biggest struggles that we're facing, and it's a lot of the things that I've worked with my clients. So I'm going to really try to focus and hone in on a few of those things, and hopefully it'll be supportive to you guys as well. So before that, I'm just going to give you guys a quick intro on who the hell I am. So I was actually a personal trainer for corporate gyms for about 5 years. So I was working for the Anytime Fitnesses of the world, and I was working really, really long shifts. I was trading dollars for hours, and I honestly was not happy doing what I was doing at the time. So I ended up dropping out of college. I paid a coach at that time $10,000 that I did not have, and then I opened a gym, even though that's not necessarily what I wanted to do at that time. I did really want to get out of the hustle. To be honest, opening a gym for me put me back into the hustle even harder than I was. And this is what I said here. What I ended up actually doing by opening the gym was creating a high paying, but also super high stress job for myself. So I had the first time in my life where I had a bunch of money coming in, but I was feeling really, really miserable in what I was doing. And I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to have time freedom. I wanted to have location freedom. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted, where I wanted, with who I wanted, while also being able to help people and support people. And I just didn't know how to put those pieces together to do that. So I ended up shutting down the gym, and I decided to start from scratch online. I was able to get the gym to about 6 figures, but I was feeling very, very unhappy in having that. And so for me, it wasn't worth what it was bringing in. So since then, I've grown another multiple 6-figure online fitness business. I grew my own personal coaching business to over 7 figures. We've helped a little over 1,000 coaches, especially in the fitness niche, take their business either from $1,000 to $5,000 months to $10,000 to $20,000 months, and that's kind of like the average. But we've helped anywhere from between like people who are just starting out, or people who are in a place where they're already making 5 to like even 10,000, wanting to scale past the 100K mark. So it just really depends where you're at, and the strategy that you execute is very dependent on where you're at. So I'll let you guys read some of this, but we've been featured in some big publications, and we're partnered with some of the larger certifying bodies like ACE and ASM, ISSA, etc., etc. Maybe some of you guys have been certified with them. So let me move my face so we can dive into this. So diving into the actual content. So which channels are the best? So there's a few components when it comes to like finding out what channels are absolutely the best for you. The first one is going to be, it's going to be the one that you enjoy, right? So one thing that I always compare this to is, if you're a coach, right? And so if you tell a client, let's say you guide them on nutrition, or we can use a fitness example as well, and you say, if you eat egg whites and broccoli for the next 30 days, you're going to lose a bunch of weight. Sure, sure, that's a way to get there, but it's very non-enjoyable. They're probably not going to be able to do it, or if they do it, they're not going to maintain it even after you leave. And so the concept applies here. So you'll have all kinds of gurus tell you to do things a certain way or apply the strategy a certain way, or as long as you follow a very particular blueprint, then you're going to get the result. The issue with that is that not everyone needs to follow the same blueprint, and not everyone should, because the way that you do business isn't necessarily going to be the same as anyone else. So the goal for you is, how can I find out what's going to work best for me and the platform that I'm most comfortable with and that I actually enjoy the most? Because if you hate it, you're not going to do it long term, right? So that's very important, first and foremost. So then the next things that you want to start considering are, what are the channels that have the highest proportion of your ideal client, right? So for example, if you're not B2B, business to business, so you're not going directly after entrepreneurs, or you're not going directly after corporations, or whatever it might be, you probably don't want to use LinkedIn, right? You could use LinkedIn, but it would probably make more sense to use a platform like Instagram or TikTok, for example, right? But if you're going after people based on specific professions or jobs, maybe LinkedIn would work. If you're going after moms, maybe we're considering things like Facebook or Facebook groups, right? Where we know there's a high propensity of that audience on that specific channel. So these things are good and important to consider. So if you already have credibility on a specific channel, start with that first and use it as a tool to grow the rest. So some of you on here have some level of credibility. Maybe you have a small following or a large following on Instagram or on Facebook or on TikTok, right? Whatever that might look like, use that, because credibility is incredibly important. It is your resume nowadays. So a lot of times I'll have people who are like, yeah, Sarah, I've been doing all of this outreach, but the clients just aren't coming in. And then I take a look at their social platform that they're doing outreach on, and I'm like, well, it sucks. Like, if I saw this, I probably wouldn't be interested. Would you be interested in yourself? Like, would you honestly respond to someone if their profile looked like X? And we'll go over like examples of that. But sometimes it's about asking yourself that hard question. And I'll give you an example of myself. So a while back, I used to have a Facebook group. And after a while, that became one of the main ways to bring on clientele, and it worked really, really well for us. But before that, I sucked at building communities, and I sucked at making Facebook groups, and I had no clue what I was doing. And in the process of that, I remember someone asked me specifically, like, so Sarah, would you be in your own Facebook group? And I was like, shit, no. I would not be in that. And I started thinking, like, what are the Facebook groups I'm in? Why do I watch like their live videos? Why do I watch their webinars? Like, why do I spend my time taking in their information? Because even if it's free, they're spending their time, which is still a cost, right? Is their time, which is an important cost. So the goal is like, would I want to be in my own group? Would I want to respond to my own message? Would I respond to someone whose page looked like X? And if the answer is no, that's okay. That's actually a good thing, because now you've realized that, and now you can make a change. But like, what are the changes that I need to make in order to have a level of credibility so that I can make things a little bit more seamless across everything else that I do? Okay. I'm going to take a quick pause. If that's making sense, just give me a make sense below. Okay, this is a good one. I get plenty of leads on the app, but I don't know how to get them to become clients. Can you give me a quick a bit of info on that? So you're getting leads on the app, but you don't know how to get them to become clients. What do you consider a lead? And what's kind of like the gap for you in terms of getting them to become clients? Are you contacting them? Are you not? Like, let me know on that, and I'll try to help you out with that. Makes sense? Makes sense? Awesome, guys. Cool. So let's continue. All right, so let's go into the step-by-step process to turning social media into a main client acquisition channel, okay? All right, so knowing your avatar. So I don't know if you guys have heard this before. If you have, there's a reason, right? Because it is really important. It's really important because of how you speak and the messaging that you create as a result of who your avatar is. It's reverse engineering. It's working backwards from where you want to be, right? So for example, if I'm just going to give a random example. If your clients are nurses, you want to speak to nurses. You want to speak to the pains and struggles of nurses. You want to speak to the daily things that they go through. So you want to speak to the fact that they have night shifts, that they're constantly exhausted, that they're wearing scrubs, that they don't feel great about X thing or Y thing at work, that they feel like they have no time to work out because the only times that they have off, they feel so tired from the shift work that they're doing. So all of this to give you an example of like, if you don't know your ideal clientele, you can't speak to them. And if you can't speak to them, they're not going to be able to resonate with you as closely as they would had you had a specific avatar. Right? Does that make sense? Because that's why it's important. It's not important because you have to, the riches are in the niches or whatever the cliches are, but it's important because of how you speak. And if you know how to speak to that ideal avatar, it's going to make a difference, right? And I always like, people make fun of me, but I always compare all of these things to dating, because I think there's a reason for that, and I think that the metaphor can relate to a lot of people. But it's the same thing as like, if you want a particular type of girl, but you're speaking in the wrong way that attracts the wrong type of girl every single time, and then you're wondering why you keep attracting the wrong girl or the wrong guy, whatever it might be, there's a reason for that, right? Because it's your energy, the way your demeanor is, the way you're speaking. If you're on a dating profile, the way your copy, right? The way you're written, your write-up is, your bio is on your actual dating app. This is all important because it really, really creates who you attract and who you repel. And so it's the exact same thing when we're talking about the ideal client, right? So you need to know these things. You need to know them like the back of your hand. So what keeps them up at night? Who do they envy? What do they want more than anything in the world in terms of results? And what social media platforms do they hang out on the most, right? These are all really important things that you want to know to be able to reverse engineer and genuinely help them out, okay? I'm going to take a quick pause because I'm seeing some comments in here. All right. Feels like I am begging for this. Okay, so AJ, leads, closing the deal. Feels like I am begging for their service honestly. Starting giving a free session for a sample. For a potential client to get into the app, they have to give information before seeing the package I offer. Okay. Oh, wait, these are you guys. Oh, sorry, you guys are the same color. But okay, I'm gonna answer AJ first, and then I'll answer Kara. Kara, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by leads closing the deal. Those are two different things. So we got leads coming in on one end, and then we got you know sales on the other end. So those are two different skill sets that are really important to have. So you never ever should feel like you're begging for their service. If you feel like you're begging for their service, the way that you're interacting with them needs tweaking, right? So the goal is, well, if you feel like you're begging for their service, is it because you are? Is it because you're constantly following up and doing the same thing over and over and over again? Because if that's the case, you want to be able to take a different approach. So if you're able to bring in leads, and the problem right now, AJ, and I'm just assuming, is conversion. Let's say the leads are coming in and you have a problem with converting those people into actual clientele. The issue is going to be in diagnosing how you have those sales conversations. Are they saying no after the sales call and objecting? So by objecting means, are they saying it's too expensive? They're saying they forgot their wallet. They're saying they got to ask their spouse. They're saying they're going to think about it and check in with you. Those are all just objections, right? And so the goal of a sales call, and not to get into this too much because I want to make sure I stay on the topic of this, but just to address this for you, the goal of the sales call, and this is important for everyone, is not to get a yes, it's to get a response and a decision. Right? So you're not trying to get them to force anyone to a yes, because you can never force anybody to do something that they don't want to do, ever, right? Ever. And you don't want that. So the goal is, how can I ask the right questions so that they make a decision? And how can I make sure that throughout the sales call, I'm illuminating how I am different than the rest of the competition? Because there are millions upon millions of fitness coaches out there. So how can you make sure that you stand out from the crowd in the sales conversation that you have with them? Because if you sound the same and you're talking about macros and you're talking about, I'm going to get you on this customized workout, which is what pretty much all of us say as trainers, then you're going to blend in and nothing's going to draw them to feel that need to immediately work with you unless you have something we call a slam dunk client, right? The person who was already ready to buy and that comes in, that happens 1% of the time. So if the issue is closing the deal, the thing that we need to work on, AJ, is going to be sales and being able to convert those leads into strong sales and learning how to objection handle. Okay. All right. So for a potential client to get into the app, they have to give information before seeing the package I offer, but they don't fill out the questionnaire most of the time. And when I try to book a consultation, I never get a response, or rarely. I try to book a consultation. Okay, so first thing I would add to that is, you're saying they don't fill the questionnaire. Make the questionnaire mandatory. So if anyone who's going to come into the app, make the questionnaire mandatory. Make sure you're getting their email and make sure you're getting their phone number in that questionnaire. That already in and of itself, you already don't have it, which you're saying they're not answering the questionnaire, which means that it's not mandatory for them to answer in order to get into the app. Then I would make that mandatory, and in the questionnaire, I would add the email and I would add the phone number. And then what I would do is I would have a drip campaign of emails that's being sent out to anyone who immediately registers, something like 3 or 4 emails, very simple, to start warming them up into the process. And then from there, when they register, make sure you have like some kind of a thing to get an immediate ding on your phone, and then boom, you can shoot them a text. Hey, Nancy, saw that you just joined X whatever app. Super excited to have you on board, like, and then some kind of a question, right? To start getting them engaged. So it's not necessarily they're just not answering. It's how can we change the approach so that they feel more inclined to answer, and then making that questionnaire absolutely mandatory on one end. So I'm gonna continue. I mean, calling the leads is absolutely one option, but I would get their phone number 100%, because if they're not going to answer the email, then at that point I would either text them or I would give them a call. Absolutely, yeah, because text open rates are like 98%, email open rates are like 5 to 10%. So if you do the math on that, like your chances of getting a hold of someone having a phone conversation or a text conversation are going to be substantially higher than if you just try to send out an email. And even if you have a drip campaign, as soon as they onboard, you're going to get substantially higher response rates than if you message them 2 days after they entered, because there's a period of time where they're just going to get cold. Okay, I'm going to continue. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, let's move on. So why do you need to know these things for social? So the failure or success of your social media deal flow are in large part dependent on how well you can hit your clients' pain points and prove that you are the vehicle that's going to solve their pain. Okay, so that one's pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to dive into it too much. But it is really important. This goes back into messaging and really understanding the client enough to know how to attract them, to know how to make copy and creative and email, like you guys are saying, you know, this person isn't responding to me, right? But how can you make sure that if they fall off, they'll still continue to warm up? I've had clients where they'll like ghost and they'll come back next year and they'll say, you know what? When X time you messaged me, I wasn't ready, but like I've been reading all of your newsletters, or I've been watching all of your content, or I've been seeing everything you've been posting, and like it's been incredible, and I'm ready to join. Things like that happen, right? Some of them can happen right away, but some of them will watch on the back end and you have no idea, and then eventually they'll make that purchase. So just keeping these things in mind and focusing both on how can I focus on short-term strategy where I'm getting these quick wins, where I'm starting to get clients coming in, but I'm also working on long-term strategy so that 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the line, clients are just actively coming to me, okay? All right. All right, so using AI. So this is something I just threw in there just because I think that and I actually had done an article with the press the other day, specifically on this with wellness coaches. And they were asking me questions about like, well, what do you think the fear is when it comes to fitness coaches and using AI? And a lot of it is a learning curve, or not knowing how to use it or when to use it, or the practicality of it, or what that looks like, all of these things. And so here are a few really easy ways that you can use AI. And I can even dive into some of the ways that I use it every single day. So copywriting, right? So copywriting is a skill. So for anyone brand new who has no idea what copywriting is, it's essentially persuasive writing for the sake of some kind of CTA or call to action, whether that be to a sales call, to a conversion, to a comment, whatever that might be. And so you can have AI help you with copy. And if it sounds weird when the AI writes it, what you do is you write out a few pieces of copy or maybe blog posts that you've had in the past. And you tell it, you say, you go to ChatGPT and you say, or whatever AI platform you want to use, and you say, this is in, put your name, Sarah Safari's voice, for example. And then you feed them the information. You do a few of those, and then you say, can you write on XYZ in Sarah Safari's voice? Boom, it's just going to spit out like 10 pieces of copy for you in your voice after you teach it what your voice is. And then you can go in there, instead of spending a week on creating content, you're spending an hour editing little small things and little small changes that you want to make, because it sounds just like you and it's very smart. And so it can do it way faster than you. And so if you can just spend an hour of time editing instead of a week of time creating and then editing, that's going to save you a lot more time and allow you to do revenue generating activities so you don't have to place all of your focus on them. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go over these next two slides, and I'm gonna pause real quick and make sure you guys are still with me. Okay, second thing, content strategy and cohesion. So one of the biggest things that I personally use AI for is for brainstorming. So if I want to ask it questions about differing partnerships, differing ideas, differing co-marketing, what that looks like, how I want to approach a certain situation, I literally will brainstorm with AI like it's my best friend, my business partner. It works really well for me. So if you want to think about how can I strategize, how can I do things slightly differently than what other people are doing? How can I make sure that my messaging stands out a little bit differently than X other trainer or Y other trainer? And you can use AI to help yourself do things like this. So using it for things like that and brainstorming can be very, very helpful. Okay. And then pain points, I put alongside interviews. So pain points is, remember I said it's really important for you to know your ideal client in order to be able to speak to them. So if you don't know your client's pain points, you can ask AI, hey, this is my ideal clientele. This is the service that I provide. Here's a result I'm trying to bring them. What are typical pain points of Y type of avatar, right? Boom, it's going to spit out all these pain points. One thing you can do like in real time with real people is actual interviews. And I've always done this, and I think you should do this alongside AI, not one instead of the other, because I think both will work cohesively together. And that's just like being able, like going, let's say, again, I'm going to just use the nurse example. So if my ideal client is nurses, I'm going to go interview 2 or 3 nurses. I'm going to find out where they hang out, where they're on social media, what kind of content that they consume, what their pain points are, what diets they've tried in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what their struggle is in getting the result that they're looking for, right? What type of person would appeal to them in terms of who they want to hire. I would ask them all of these questions because the goal isn't just to interview this person. The goal is to understand their lexicon, how they speak, how they're going to be able to articulate their struggles so that you can reiterate that across copy, across blog posts, across social media. Because what happens when you know the exact language of your ideal client is you're going to start getting messages like this. You have an ideal client message you and they're going to be like, wow, you literally spoke to me like I was the only one in the room. That's when you know you're creating really, really strong copy, when they'll say things to you like, you're speaking directly to me. And I remember at some point when I was getting really good at copy and practicing and stuff like that, I had a lot of messages, both on Facebook and Instagram, of clients coming to me and like, you know what, Sarah, like, I know we don't know each other that well. I've been reading some of the posts that you've been writing, and like, it really felt like you were talking directly to me. And that's when I knew things were starting to work. And that's when I started getting inbound traffic coming in too, which is what most people want, right? And if you can have a consistent inbound traffic coming in, you don't have to worry as much about warming up someone cold into a warm prospect. Okay, let me take a quick look at the chat box and then we'll continue. All right. I think you guys are just helping each other out. This is great. Okay, perfect, perfect. So we're figuring out how to add a mandatory questionnaire in here. This is really great. Okay, so you say, I think MailChimp is very beneficial, but figuring out the automated emails is difficult to create as someone who doesn't write emails often. Okay, yeah. So in terms of like creating, okay, I'm going to take a quick pause here. Simple before you complicate. So so when I said the email thing, that doesn't mean go take action on that right away. It's like an idea of maybe not today, but maybe a month down the line. The first step is, how do I get clients to stop falling off without me trying to automate things? So if that's the first step, is I'm going to make this questionnaire mandatory. I'm going to make sure that I get a ding on my phone every time someone registers for my app so that I can send them a direct message so that they don't get cold, because the warmest is when they first register. And if they see you reaching out to them after they've already registered for your app, they're going to be super excited, right? And that's really important. So the whole goal here is, how can I take all these leads that are coming in and just make a few small tweaks to be able to convert them? So we used to have a client, actually a client that came on from FitBudd. I believe it was maybe last year, something like that. And he had a similar issue where he was getting tons of leads coming into FitBudd, but he just didn't know how to convert those people. We made like 2 or 3 tweaks to what he was doing, and within a week he collected over $20,000. And so that was just from making these small tweaks that took those leads from cold to warm, and then he was able to convert a lot more seamlessly. So just simple before automation. Once you've simplified that process, then you can start doing email campaigns. And to be honest, don't be like intimidated by it. It's actually very, very simple to do so. But I don't want, what I notice sometimes is clients get overwhelmed and then they almost don't want to do much because they're overwhelmed. So focus on the lowest hanging fruit first. And once you get there, then we can start talking about X or Y platform that does email automation. And it's relatively seamless to do. But first, let's fix one problem before you move on to the next. And just as a general statement, one of the biggest things with business that I've noticed myself is it's not always about doing the wrong things. It's also about, and what I've seen, doing the right things at the wrong time. So the goal is, how can I do the right things at the right time to just be able to slowly move the needle forward or quickly in my business when I need it to. Okay. All right, guys, if this is helpful, can you just give me a yes in the chat box so I can make sure you guys are still with me? Just give me a yes in the chat box if this is still helpful for you guys. I don't want to talk your ear off. Getting yes, taking notes. Cool, cool. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. And if any questions come up, absolutely, please just let me know and I'll answer them either throughout or at the end. Yes, yeah, I pause a lot throughout this as well just to check in on you guys. So just let me know if those do come up and I'll make sure to answer them either now or at the end. All right, cool. So picking your platform. So I have Instagram on here, Facebook, personal, as in your personal page or group, or TikTok. And one other thing to say here on Facebook is, one other thing that I've seen a lot of our clients do at the very beginning, until we talk to them, is they'll try to run the business directly from the business page and only the business page. Facebook doesn't like that. Facebook does not give the same level of reach and engagement to business pages as it does to personal pages. So now you're struggling, unless you already have a very well-known page. It's very hard to build a page that's going to consistently get reputational engagement. And the reason for that is because Facebook wants communities and people to connect with other people. And so using your page, your personal page, as the brand and posting content off of that from an engagement perspective will do the absolute best. And I'm not talking about from like an emotional perspective, because I know a lot of my clients, one of the biggest issues they have at the beginning when they start posting is, what are my friends and family going to think? You know, like some of those fears that come up. But that's a conversation for another time. There's obviously ways to navigate around that. But from just as a side note and a thought, that's really important. Okay. So what type of content should you create? So there's a few different types of content, but I've narrowed it down to 3 just to keep things super simple and so that you guys can execute should you ever want to. So, well, I mean, hopefully you want to. So first thing is going to be entertainment. Okay. So entertainment-based content is it can be one of various types of content, but it's exactly the way it sounds. People come on platforms like Instagram, especially TikTok, like Facebook, to be entertained, not necessarily to be educated. I'm not saying that's what everyone wants, but as a general idea, most people come there to be entertained and educated. So if we know that that's the general idea, I call it the chocolate-covered broccoli effect. How can we give them the chocolate and then give them what they need after, which is the broccoli? And so it's almost entertaining people with a little, and then sprinkling pieces of broccoli in there. So whether that's in dance reels, if that's not your thing, great. But how can we create other types of reels that are entertaining your audience, that are specific to them? Some people are funny and they like to use that. Some people are quirky and they like to engage that areas of their personality into the reels or the videos that make. Some people are really good storytellers, and so they like to include that, right? Some people have no idea what the hell they're good at, and they have to figure it out, right? And that's okay too. Second thing is pain point-based content, and it's incredibly powerful as well. So the easiest way to do that is, okay, what are the 5 top pain points of my ideal client? Okay, I'm going to say they feel embarrassed and ashamed when they look in the mirror. They feel out of breath when they're going up the stairs. They feel like a bad parent when they come home and they're too exhausted to play with their kids because they're out of shape. They want to have sex with the lights off, or they don't at all because they're too embarrassed about their body. Whatever those things are, right? What are the top 5 pain points, or whatever that might look like? And then how do I create a piece of content with the solution to each and every single one and bringing that out, right? That's pain point based content. And then the third one is like authority building content, which most of you from doing this for a long time, I know are absolutely very good at. And that's just creating content based on your expertise. Okay. So if you want to talk about how to deadlift right, how to do a hip thrust right, how to do X or Y or Z thing right, those things absolutely can help. And this is where like, you don't have to, you absolutely don't have to, but if you're not, if you want, you can have like a specific niche. And this is where you've seen like, oh, I'm the butt coach or I'm the glute coach, whatever it might be. And so people come to you for a very specific thing, right? So if you don't, you want one of two things, either a very particular niche or niche or whatever you want to call it, or a very specific expertise, right? So I help people with the keto diet. I help people with intermittent fasting. I help people grow their butt. I help people grow their arms, whatever it might be. I'm just making up stuff. Don't take this legit. But whatever it might be, you want to choose one of the two. Okay. All right. Let's continue. All right. Okay. So this is just talking about your social needing to have the MLR factor. So the first thing is memorable. So this is based on your messaging. We've already talked about this, so I won't a lot, so I won't write on it too much. Second thing is likability. So these are your unique traits and your characteristics that will create absolute polarity. Okay. So you have to think like, okay, one of the easiest ways, like, what kind of person am I? How do my best friends, like, if they were to say your personality traits or characteristics, what would they say? How are you? Like, what type of person are you? Like, what sticks out to them, right? And so, like, those are your quirks. Those are your traits. Those are the things you want to amplify. And guess what? It's so easy to amplify things that you're already like, right? Instead of trying to like find something to amplify that isn't you, it becomes exhausting and it doesn't last long term. Go back to the beginning of this conversation when I talked about like things lasting long term. It does not last long term to do that, right? So you got to find out like what are my actual traits and quirks, and then how can I amplify that via whatever channel that I want to use. Okay. And the last one is results focus. So nobody cares about the process, but they do care about the results. So this is kind of where the sales conversation, some of you guys might be falling off in terms of closing the deal, is a lot of time people will say, here's my really cool X software that I use. Here's my amazing calorie counting process that I have. Here's my workouts that are customized to you. So instead of talking about the process, you want to talk about the destination. So I always give this analogy as nobody ever boasts the plane ride, but they do the vacation. So you're not talking about how tight the seats were and how the food was cold and wasn't good and you were stuck in between two people and you had no space and then your knees started hurting and the bathroom was taken up and then, you had to go but the seatbelt sign was on, whatever, right? You don't want to talk about those things. You want to talk about when you got there and then they give you a welcoming cocktail drink and you saw the beautiful beach and it was super hot out and it felt really nice and all these things, right? So it's the same thing. You don't want to talk about the process of getting there. You want to talk about what they need, which is the destination, which is whether it's weight loss, whether it's muscle build, whether it's to have higher energy so they can be there for their kids, like whether it's to build confidence so they can get more girls or guys or whatever it might be. What is that thing they really want? And how can you make sure that you're the person who bridges the gap between where they are now and where they want to be? Okay? Awesome. All right, let me take a quick pause to make sure you guys are good. All right, yeah, we're gonna go through this real quick. Okay. Okay, I think we're good still. All right, guys. So Facebook versus Instagram. I want to lay this out for you guys in terms of like a few options of like, okay, if I want to choose between these two platforms, what are the pros and cons of both? And I want to make sure I go through that with you guys. So Facebook has exclusivity, whereas Instagram is less exclusive, as in you can go ahead and create private groups where only certain people join those groups, okay? Facebook is a community builder. It's a little bit harder to build a community on Instagram, right? And the same reason for the community is because of the fact that you can create private groups, invite only, you can have questionnaires, you can do very specific things in that group that is exclusive to that VIP group that you have. I've grown 10,000 plus Facebook communities, and sure, it takes work, but it absolutely creates really, really strong community. And out of that comes, guess what? A lot of really warm leads who become a lot easier to convert because they already know, like, and trust you. So if you already have the know, like, and trust factor, the conversion from lead to clientele substantially increases. So that's your goal, and just one kind of thing to keep in mind, food for thought, in terms of building communities to generate leads and clientele. It is a very, very potent tool, and I've definitely used it to bring in a lot of clientele. And guess what? It's free. If you can do it the right way, you're going to bring in regards to paid ads versus that, like, you can build a community on Facebook for free and then boom, bring them into the platform that you're using. Okay. So I wanted to dive into the only 6 ways to get clients. So, because sometimes we get overwhelmed of like, okay, there's so many, all these different ways of bringing in clientele, Sarah, I don't know which method I need to do, whatever it might be. Okay, so I want to dive into that real quick to just simplify. My goal is to simplify because I think simplification allows us to take action, and then we can take the next step from there. Okay, so the first one is earned media. So your content actually attracting prospects. Super important. Okay, the second thing is going to be owned media. That's going to be your email list, your text list, your Facebook group, all of these things that we've briefly touched on. Like, we briefly touched on Facebook groups, briefly talked about emails, things like that. That's the other thing about creating drip campaigns. You can start building up an email list and warming up a community from there. Okay. Third one is affiliates and partners. So partnering with a company that hosts your ideal client that isn't in direct competition with you, right? So like, you're not going to partner with another personal trainer, but you can partner with a physical therapist clinic. You can partner with a nutrition app. You can partner with a meal prep company. You can partner with a naturopathic clinic, right? And I'm just naming things out there of, the goal is to think, and guess what? Use AI for this. The goal is to think, who has my ideal client? And how can I partner with them so that I can get the exposure I need to be able to bring on those clientele? That's super, super important. Okay. All right. Referrals and word of mouth. I'm going to briefly touch on this because I think it's one of those things that's like obvious and everyone says, but no one really fully executes. Like, create a referral system and make sure, like, if you have an idea, a client, and let's say you charge that client $1,500, which we don't recommend charging anything less than $1,500 for like a 90-day, no less than that, but definitely can go way above, is pay them, right? Give them a fee, give them 10%, give them 15%, send them cash when they give you that clientele, because guess what? It didn't cost you any money to get that client. And so now, instead of $0, you got, if your deal is $1,500, you got $1,300, you got $1,400, right? And so they're like, great, like, I just tell my friends about it, they join and I get money, right? It's a win-win, right? So incentivizing them to tell their friends, right? And to bring a friend, right, is really great. Or if you do some kind of hybrid training, which I saw at the beginning, a lot of you guys do, get them to bring a friend on their next training session, right? And then sell that person into a client. Like, just some really seamless ways to increase your clientele here. It just requires a little bit of thinking outside of the box. Okay, let's continue. All right, DM outreach. This really depends on the person, and some people hate this, some people love this, some people are indifferent to it and they just do what it takes. You're reaching out to people who you think need help. So whether that's finding them through pages of high-level influencers, by high level I mean just they have a lot of followers and a lot of engagement, who they're like, that's your ideal client is already there, right? So let's say if someone follows X influencer who's a weight loss coach and they have 600,000 followers and they have a 8% engagement rate on Instagram, which is like extremely high because the average on there is like 1%. Okay, cool. They have a really close-knit community. They have a lot of people. There's people engaging on their posts and they're not responding to anyone because they have too many followers. They don't do one-on-one. They do usually high volume, low ticket services online. And so you can start connecting with those people. You can start having conversations with those people and seeing if there's a fit for them getting support from you. Which, by the way, that's a skill set in itself. So like, one of the biggest things that we teach is like with our clientele is like, how how can we go through what we call messenger script from A to Z? We call it conversion conversations to get them from cold to warm to booking a call with you to conversion. So that's like one of the fastest ways to bring on clientele because it's such easy access and you can get off this webinar and start doing it. But obviously you have to have the skill set of conversion conversations and be able to ask the right questions throughout the course of the conversation, not get lost in the whole thing, so you can get them to want to book a call with you and then convert into a client, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to pause real quick. I'm going to do the paid ads and then I'm going to pause actually. So paid ads is the last one. So most important thing with paid ads is like, you don't want to blow a bunch of money on paid ads for at the beginning for two reasons. One, it's like, if you don't yet have the skill to convert. So let's say you aren't the best at selling it. And that's okay, right? Like if you can't convert quite yet, you're going to be getting cold prospects on ads. And if you can't convert and you're paying, thousands of dollars on ads, now you're just losing money. So the goal here is like, how can I make sure that I can get really good at converting people so that once I convert, then I can bolster it with paid amplification. So that's kind of what I did. What I did first was like, I essentially got my first several clients, not a lot, like even like my first 5 clients using organic. So organic being non-paid, some of these methods that we've talked about. And then I took like half that money and I put it into paid ads. And then I started getting a lot more leads. They started converting, running paid ads. And that's how I was able to scale from there, right? And that's just one way of doing it. That's what worked really well for me, okay? All right, I'm pausing. Guys, if you're with me, just give me an in, like IN. Just tell me you're in. If you're with me, if this is making sense, if this is helpful, give me an in so I make sure that this is actually helpful and I'm not pondering off too much here. Talking your ear off. Okay, amazing. And I'll do a quick thing for questions. So if anything comes up, just let me know. I'll try to answer those as well as I can. If I'm talking too fast, please, please let me know. I just want to make sure that I can get through this for you guys as well. Okay, awesome. All right, let's continue. Cool. Yeah, so this is just at the end, I'm just saying like, not all of these methods are meant for you, and all of them are very valid. So you have to find what aligns and works for you best. And I can't stress this enough, right? The amount of clients that I've had come to me after they've worked with another coach and they say, well, they told me that I have to do it in this blueprint or this way, and that way didn't work for me. And they told me it was my fault because I didn't do the work. And it's like, I mean, that's not how coaching works. That's not how business works. The goal of running a business and having someone coach you isn't for them to say, do it in this very specific, rigid way that I tell you to do. It's, here are your options. Here's my recommendations. Here's the benefits of this and this from your situation. Here's the lowest hanging fruit that's going to get you the best result in the shortest period of time while we build out the long-term strategy. This is where I think you should go ahead. And then you leave it up to them, right? Instead of giving someone a very rigid way of doing things, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and the goal isn't for you to be forced into one way of doing things. So it's just something really important to keep in mind throughout this, okay? And then the last thing is like, okay, yeah. To test what works, only change one variable at a time. So like, if you want to see what works in terms of content, first you change the copy, then you change the targeting, then you change the creative, instead of changing everything at the same time. Otherwise, you won't know what's working and what's not, right? So if you, in terms of targeting, don't worry about that too much. It's more like ads oriented, but like for you, it's just going to be creative and copy. So your caption and the post that you make, whether it's a photo or a video. So, okay, I noticed that this kind of post gets a lot more engagement. I noticed that this type of post gets a lot more engagement from the right people, right? Because if you're a dude and you post thirsty naked selfies, or you're a girl and you post thirsty naked selfies, you're going to get, a lot of attention from the opposite sex. So is that going to be your ideal client? Probably not. If it's working, great, but most of the time posting naked selfies isn't going to get you clients. So how can we get the right type of engagement from the right type of people, not just like ego boosts, so that I can actually make sure that I'm bringing in consistent clientele and results? Because the engagement doesn't matter if it's from the wrong person. Just something really, really important to note here, okay? This goes back to the very beginning when I was just talking about like, optimizing your platform. And these are just some examples of like, platforms that I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably wouldn't respond to a message like this if you sent me that message because that doesn't look like the profile is optimized. Whereas these look like the profile is optimized. Like, okay, this person looks very fit. I can see exactly what they do. It says fitness trainer on their page. It says where they're certified. I can see their captions very clearly. Everything looks very organized. The messaging is on point. These kinds of things, like optimizing the platform before you start kind of, making your next moves. All right. So we're almost done here, guys, promise. Like literally 2 or 3 minutes left, but super important, and a quick announcement at the end for you guys too. So this is really important. It's just the idea that trust is a lubricant of all sales. So why do you think sponsorships with influencers even exist? And this is just a metaphor for you guys, is because if you build the know, like, and trust factor, the KLT, they'll take your word on what's good for them. That's why influencer marketing went from a $1 billion industry in 2016 to a $21 billion industry this year, and it's continuously going to grow. That's a massive growth. Why? And the reason for that is because influencers build a very strong trust factor and community with their followers. Thus, they have incredibly massive impact on purchasing decisions. So if you can take even 1% of that as a lesson of how strong it is. So for you guys who don't maybe love sales too much, building communities that drive sales, this is where you should take that from. Because if you're able to get people to know, like, and trust you, which you absolutely can, I've done this, I've taught people how to do this 1,000 times over, it's a replicable model, then you're going to have a lot easier of a time when it comes to the sales conversation and being able to convert them, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna actually skip this because this is more so ad space. All right, so last thing here. So if everything I just said went completely over your head, that's okay. I hope it didn't, but that's okay. All of us, have a different part of our business journey that we're in right now. And the most important thing in business, besides working hard and not giving up, that's very important, is doing the right thing at the right time for your business, okay? So let me move on to the next slide. So if you're in a place right now where you're looking to grow your personal training business online or offline or a hybrid of both, I think there's only one of you who was a 3. So most of you for online or offline, there's an opportunity to work together if we both think it's a fit via our business intensive, okay? So these are just some testimonials of clientele that we've directly worked with. So Karina went from a couple $100 to 15K in 6 weeks of working with us. And you can just kind of read this for yourself here. We had another client who hit the 20K club and signing clients. They were signing clients for 1K a month and got 20K. And then we have another client who hit 11,000 in 5 weeks. We have a lot of these, and I can even send them to you guys. But that's just from following a model that worked best for them, that they felt comfortable with, that they were able to consistently execute to be able to get high quality clients. So the goal isn't how can I get as many $100 clients as possible, because then you're going to spend forever doing that. It's how can I get high paying, high quality clients consistently, because 1, they'll do the work. 2, it'll increase your revenue. And 3, that means you can invest a lot more back into the business to be able to continue to help them. So what we specifically do is help clients build the high ticket model so that they can bring in high paying clients and be able to build a 6-figure or a multi-6-figure business, as they're doing online, offline, or a combination of both, right? So, and these are just even more testimonials. So this is just an invitation. So if and only if you're ready to grow and scale your business to generate consistent 6 to 10K months or beyond that, go ahead and book your call, not your link. With this link, I think that we put it in the chat, but I can also put it in the chat for anyone who's ready to book a call. I'm gonna Oh, okay, there we go. It's already in there. There it is, guys. So just influencernexus.com/FitBudd. You guys can put that in there. Go ahead and book the call if you want. And then I will be directly on the call. We'll have like around a 30 to 40-minute conversation, finding out where you're at with your business right now, what we need to do in order to get you to the next level, and if we both think it's a good fit to work together, so we can take you through the blueprints to really kind of go through the steps to build your business, because I know how overwhelming it can be to go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to see if there's any questions that you guys want to ask before we finish off, and just let me know.
All right, you guys, you can share your questions in the chat box, and I'm sure a lot of you are very eager for Sarah to address your questions. But before that, I'll just take a quick minute to reintroduce FitBudd to those who joined late and don't have the access to the platform yet. In summary, FitBudd helps you grow your fitness business with the power of your own app on iOS as well as on Android. Our platform is the only tool you'll ever need to seamlessly run your fitness business and build a robust digital brand. For those interested in experiencing FitBudd firsthand, we offer a 30-day free trial. And to explore more, please schedule a free demo call using the link provided in the chat. So over to you back, Sarah, for the Q&A session.
Awesome. Add the link, Sarah, again. Yeah, I did add the link, so it's right above. We have two links, one that goes to a landing page, one that's directly, I'll just put it right here. So that's one you can just choose to go ahead and book a call. And then you also have like the demo link for FitBudd as well in there. So we have two separate links. One is if you want to book a call for potential coaching to be able to grow your fitness business. And the second one is for a demo with FitBudd. So those are both in there. Any other questions or anything that I can address in terms of content marketing, in terms of growing posts, that kind of stuff that I can help you guys with before we go? Before we end the webinar? Sorry, I just saw a really long post that got deleted quickly in there. All right, I'll just wait like 30 seconds, 40 seconds to see if anyone wants to type out anything, and I'll answer them. If not, then we'll just call it a day on the webinar. And I think the recording does get sent out. I think somebody asked that. I have so many questions. Okay. If you would like, you can go ahead and book a call in the calendar, and we can, yeah, awesome. Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, FitBudd, onto the webinar. Until the next one next month.
Thank you, Sarah, for another amazing and insightful session, as always. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Stay tuned for the upcoming webinars that promise a lot more excitement. As Sarah also mentioned, the replay will be accessible shortly. We'll be sending the link over to you on your registered email IDs. So look forward to that as well. And once again, thank you to all who joined, and to Sarah as well. Have a delightful day, everyone.